Hey, what's up, people? Alright, let's do this. It's been 4 days since I've coded. Damn. So I haven't coded since Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, it's been since Friday. Um, yeah, should have coded yesterday, but I didn't. Getting back on it though. So last session, let's set this timer real quick. So what did we do last session? Last session we continued finalizing the save uh, load logic. Okay, well that's very generic of a statement. What exactly were we doing? We continued going through save logic, master save object list, determining final form of namespaces for object name, and also including final pass pseudocode comments for proper save load logic for each data point. Okay, we stopped at line 51 in save logic, so let's go over there to line 51 after we do this. So 51 in save logic, let's put our date, and so it's 525. Throw myself an extra minute. Why not? Alright. What line was it? 50 something. It was 51. So let's go over there. Let's see if this is working. Yeah, it's working. Alright. Alright, so this is where we had stopped, and we're just going through here. And okay, yeah, so we're putting like code or comments above each data structure to basically tell us what we're going to be doing to properly code the save and load system for each data point. So as it iterates through, whenever it's saving and loading, we're gonna have to like do whatever it says in these comments above each one to load it and save it properly. Pretty straightforward stuff. Kinda had forgot that. Whoop. Whoop. Why is it taking so long to post this? It's never done that before. What the fuck is the problem here? Okay, well, I'm assuming that it's gonna work. Alright, anyway. Okay, so we did card group dict as the last one. And so song num and choose multiple cards. So I'm guessing if I don't put any special comments above each one, that means we don't need special logic for it. Like song num is going to be saved directly as an integer, right? And it's going to be loaded in, deserialized as the integer, and it's going to be assigned directly to that namespace. Very straightforward stuff. Nothing complicated about that at all. And I guess for current game, choose multiple cards, it'd be the same thing, because that's just going to be a boolean. It's going to be either true or false, right? Yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah, current game, choose multiple cards. Okay, easy. And then now we're on click card active. I'm just curious though about choose multiple cards. Is it really that simple? I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah, basically we only need special logic if it's gonna be like a Pygame object that has to be skeletonized or something like that, or like something that handles multiple data points like card group dictionary or whatever, or well, yeah, like a card group. A card group has to be converted into from skeleton format back into card format on load and stuff like that. Yeah, so I just wanted to verify I wasn't like getting ahead of myself. I think we are on click card active. So for click card active, how are we gonna have to save this? On save, it's gonna be basically just like choose multiple cards. I think click card active is literally just a it's a boolean, right? I believe so. Let's open it up and just triple check, look at it real quick. Yeah, so it's got an internal that is returned by the getter. The getter will return that internal, and then we have the setter. And what does it do when it sets it? All it does is... Oh, you know what I just realized? Whenever we call the setters on these, it's gonna want to transfer the data, because whenever we call the setter, if changed from dirtcheck bool is equal to false, then that means we will transfer it. And the only time that change from dirtcheck bool is set to true is inside of dirtcheck. But whenever we reload this data on a reconnect, well, we don't actually want to send that. What the fuck is this still loading for? Like, what's the problem here? I don't know why that is doing that. Let's see what the problem is here. Why it isn't loading. What the deal, dude? What the deal? I don't know if I can type right. Okay, there it is. I'm guessing that the audio is working. Let's see if the audio is working actually. Yeah, you can barely hear the music. It's so loud. It's so quiet. But that's just because of this particular song is really quiet. Yeah. It's working. For show. Okay. Whoa, man, that was loud. Let's turn that back down. On my end, that is. Alright, so... Oh yeah, click card active. Setter, it's gonna transfer. So that's actually really important. This is something I never thought about until just now. So I'm just gonna put ensure no data transfer on reconnect load from DB. Yay. So for properties with setters which internally handle data transfer upon setting, need to alter logic so that this doesn't happen, because we are reconnecting and don't want that set data to be transferred. um, would need to changed from dir check to different namespace, such as just transfer data, and set it to false whenever we are loading in or setting on reconnect. Yay. Very much need to do that for sure. Very important. That would cause some nasty bugs, and we don't want the nasty bugs, right? They always got some nested comments, bro. I got a headache. Been having a headache like right here in my temple, bro. I feel like if I touch right here, it helps it. It's like in a very precise spot in my head. Huh. Maybe I hit my head, I don't remember. Okay, so click card active, setter. Yeah, we definitely want the setter to not transfer the data, so that's gonna have to be taken care of. But as far as that goes, like, is there anything else? Can we just set it? Well, if we're setting it to false, we need to clear the clickable card list. Oh, so this could cause a bug, right? Because this is only supposed to happen. This is only supposed to happen like during regular gameplay. This is like special trigger logic to handle certain scenarios where whenever it's just like an automatic thing. It's like a robotic system where one thing triggers another thing instead of you having to like manually do it, you know? It just does it automatically every time. But if like if it's being set to false, but it's not naturally, like, basically if it got set to false, it cleared the clickable card list, and then it clears the clickable card list, and then we disconnect, then we reconnect, and then we reload it to false. And when we do that, it's gonna clear the clickable card list again, and that might mess it up. You know, we don't want anything that doesn't need to happen, because that's how bugs happen. Like, if it doesn't have to happen, don't do it. So basically, we would just like use some sort of clause to just completely bypass this, honestly. Honestly, I would just probably do it like, let's see. So, if I was just gonna load this in through the setter on a reconnect, I would really only want it to just set the value, and that's it. I don't think I would want it to do, like, let's just go line by line here. So we would want, well, we don't need the lock because we're client side, so we don't have to worry about this. All right. So now we have core function. So if type of val is equal to tuple, it wouldn't be. It would be else. And then from there, we would go to change from dir check bool equals false. So we would have to add, we could add like an if at the beginning, probably, that just says if like we could probably just have a an attribute. We could create an attribute probably called reconnect bool. And if reconnect bool, whenever we go to reconnect, we'll set the reconnect bool to true. And then in all of these properties which check which use setters that have all this auxiliary like function attached to them whenever the setter is called, then we could just have the this if clause that says if self.reconnect bool is equal to true, then we'll set self._click card active equal to whatever the value is, and then that's it. And then we'll put everything else in the else. So it's either it's gonna be a reconnect and it's only gonna modify the internal, or it's going to not be a reconnect. Reconnect bool is going to be equal to false, and it's going to run all this other stuff that it would normally run, right? So that makes sense to me, because we don't need the lock, so we don't need like all this extra code here. The only thing we need to run is this line right here, because like we said, if it was set to false, that means this setter already got run. This setter already ran. It already did its thing, and it reached the next save checkpoint and saved that value. That's why we're reloading it as false. Therefore, you know, if it was false, it would clear this clickable card list. That would have already have been done. It would already have checked choose multiple cards, you know, and did this little magic trick that it does to, you know, handle changing that for you, without you having to like go do it manually or whatever. So I think that would be the way to go. So honestly, I'm just gonna go ahead and add that code right now. I think, let me just like zoom out and make sure I'm doing this correctly. Like, I'm pretty sure this is the right way to do it, right? So we have properties, like all of them are gonna be game properties. Like I think 99% of them are gonna be game properties. Couldn't we, well, so do we import, I'm trying to be smart about this, right? Basically, like, if you can do something one and done, that's the way to do it, instead of repeating yourself. Like, instead of the game class having a reconnect bool and then the player class having a reconnect bool, it would be better to just have like one reconnect bool attached to some file that you can import into all of those files, that is set one time and is checked, you know, like you just, it all points to one thing. There's not a bunch of different fucking references and this boolean and that for that file and this one for that file, all that sort of craziness. And since we have like a lot of like complicated import stuff that goes on in the project, we have to find a way, like the file, maybe in save logic, maybe, because I think save logic gets imported into like every file that would need it, and then we would just set it in save logic. And that does make sense for it to be located in save logic because it is related to save logic. I mean, save logic is related to reconnection, So overall, I would say if we can do it in the save logic file, that would probably be the best place to create that boolean. So let's go ahead and put a little comment here. We're just gonna put right here. We're gonna say below section 520.25. Realize that for proper load saving, we will have to what will we have to do? We will have to add an if clause at the very beginning of all calculated property setters that check, and we'll just go ahead and say we're going to predict that it's going to be savelogic.py dot, and we're just kind of call it reconnect bool, I guess. To the check, say reconnect close at the very beginning, and place the current / original setter code inside of the associated else clause. True. So let's see, move this over just a little bit. It's a little bit crooked, dog. That's a little better, I think. As of a proper loading statement, we'll have to add an if clause at the very beginning of all calculated property setters that check save logic reconnect bool and place the current original setter code inside of the associated else clause. Then there's more that needs to go along with that. I'll just expand. So I say essentially, if that bool is set to true, which will be set at beginning of client, or at the beginning of reconnect session. If that bool is set to true, then it will enter into the first if and only set the associated internal use adder for that property. And I feel like everything's scooted over a little bit. Maybe my chair's scooted over. So essentially that bool is set to true, which means that then we'll enter to the first if and only set the associated internal use adder. And then we'll say if bool is equal to false, we'll then run like core func extra functionality, etc. Reviewed validity of this proposal and is deemed proper and necessary. Proper and necessary. Yeah, baby. Alright, so what are we doing now? Okay, well, let's go ahead and... So... First, so should we create the bool first, or should we add the code in here? I guess we should create the bool first. So let's see if we import save logic first. So let's do Control-Alt-Z to create a checkpoint right here. And now we're gonna do Control-F, and then we're gonna do save logic to see if we import anything from save logic. Okay, so actually we don't. Let's check import. What do we do for importing? So we don't actually import anything from save logic. Is that strange? Well, we will have to import something from save logic, right? Because we're gonna have to import. Well, I guess the easy way to check this, right, is to see what we import into save logic. Because if you can't have a circular import, you can't have one thing imported and then that same thing that you're importing import the other one. You can't have the circularity there. It will cause an error. Python will be like, well, which one? I can't. It's circular, you know. This one needs that to exist, and that one needs this one to exist. So it will throw an error. It won't work. So since this one doesn't import anything else, the only thing that it imports is the custom logger. That lets me know that I can import this from save logic into all these other files, because custom logger I don't think is gonna need save logic at all, so like we're not worried about that one. So since we don't import any of those files that we're gonna be importing save logic into, this is a good place, and it is also categorically a good place to add the code. So let's just go ahead and create that bool, and I guess we'll attach it to. Should we attach it to database? Or well, that's not quite. I mean, it's good enough, right? Like it doesn't have to be perfectly named. There's no like whatever. It's fine. So we're gonna call it the reconnect bool, and since it starts with a R, we're gonna go down here to this location, and we'll put self.reconnect bool, and it's gonna initially be set to false, and then we're gonna add in a comment which says below line created 5/20/25. Type bool, purpose to be set to true upon reconnect to ensure that properties behave in a proper way, to avoid extra functionality via the setters, and to avoid data exchange upon setting values. True. Very much correct. So we have the purposes to be set to true upon reconnect to ensure that properties behave in a proper way, to avoid extra functionality via the setters, and to avoid data exchange upon setting values. Okay, so it's going to be default to false, and we're going to just change it to true whenever we to be set to true upon reconnect to ensure the blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Now we can just go over to game, and then we're going to can we just import a property from an attribute from a class, or do we have to import the entire instance? You know what I mean? Like, is there a way? Sora. What is Sora? What is Sora here? Okay, I don't know what that is. Anyway, we'll figure it out. Okay, Python, can I import an instance attribute without importing the entire instance? No, in Python you cannot import an instance attribute without having access to the instance. The import statement is used to bring modules, classes, functions, or variables defined at the module level into another scope. Instance attributes, however, are defined at runtime inside of an instance of a class. So to access an instance attribute, you must have access to the instance. Okay. So we could have it as a global instead. So we have my attribute from my module import my attribute. So you import the instance. If you want to access without needing the instance explicitly, you could define the attribute at the module level instead of as an instance attribute. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You just set it as a global, basically. And that's fine. But I was wondering if we will need... Well, we don't want to import the entire instance anyway, even if we just need a couple functions from it. That's just not the smart thing to do. Like I said, it's the same thing as only executing the code that you need to execute and nothing more. Because every piece of code that you execute, even if you don't need it, is a liability. It's a chance for a bug to occur. So the less code that is run, the better. So the best thing to do, I think, would be to just go ahead and set this as a global. So we'll just remove it from this instance, and we'll do this right here at the top, and we'll just have this as reconnect bool. So this is going to be a global, and I'm just going to remind you this is a global. It's a global. Yeah. Type bool. Type is a bool. Yeah, and I do like to have this in like a div, because you're usually supposed to have your well, you're supposed to have globals all caps actually. So we should do this all caps, right? Reconnect bool. Aren't you supposed to have them as a? Aren't you supposed to write globals in all caps in Python? Pretty sure that's best practice. You're right. By convention, module level constants or globals are written in all caps snake case. Max users. So this one would be from settings import max users. Yeah. So we have reconnect bool equals false. There you go. Okay. Yeah, and that'll work fine, I think. Yeah. Yeah, we do this. We do this all the time. So, let's see. The way that we'll do this is we'll say from save logic import, and then we'll call it reconnect bool. There you go. So you have from save logic import reconnect bool. Yeah. All right. Well, what then? What do we do now? From save logic import reconnect bool. All right. Well, now we can just use it, right? So when we use it, do we still use it in all caps? Classes are Pascal case, instance object private, single, yeah. This is part of PEP 8s. Okay, yeah, private or internal. So we'll say, and when we use it in the file we are importing it into, do we continue to use it with all caps, or do we not? Yes, when you import it, you should continue to use it with all caps in the file you import it to. Gotcha. Okay. I don't. This is really the first time I'm doing that. I should probably have done that elsewhere, but. And now we would refer to it as save We say save logic. Oh, wait, no, 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 no. We have to do it as we would have to import the entire file. Yeah, we would have to import the whole thing, which is not optimal because we would have to do import save logic, and then from save logic we would say, like, we up here we would just put import save logic, and then to access the global as it is, like the live version of it, we have to do it as save logic dot reconnect bool. Does this make sense? Yeah, it does. It makes sense. But let me just verify this asking. So if the global is a bool, don't we have to import it via import save logic.py and reference it via save logic dot reconnect bool to access the live version of that data structure. Otherwise, if we did from save logic import reconnect bool, it would import the value at that time, but not the value if it was changed later on. You're absolutely right, and that's a crucial distinction in Python. From save logic import reconnect bool imports the current value at the time of the import. It becomes a local copy, not live. Import save logic gives you access to the live module, so save logic.reconnect bool will always reflect the current value. When you use from save logic import reconnect bool, you are copying the value into the local namespace. If the value changes later inside save logic, you won't see the update unless you re-import or re-upload. So like we could just re-import it. I mean, that probably is the more sensible option, would just be to rerun the import. You know? Does that make sense? If the global variable is immutable or expected to change, always if save logic reconnect, is your to get the current value. Let me know if you're trying to see. Okay. So if there is a large class inside of save logic that is instantiated at the end of that file, and we only need that one global from the file, not the class or the instance, wouldn't it be smarter to just re-import the global each time it's needed instead of importing the entire file? Wouldn't it import all that code that isn't used? And it's smart to think about performance and resource usage. So Python imports modules once per process. The first time a module like save logic is imported, all of its top level code is executed. After that, Python caches the module in sysmodules, so for future imports, even if from another file, do not rerun the module code. So import save logic multiple times doesn't re-execute the file, it just returns the already loaded module. What happens when you from save logic import reconnectable repeatedly? You're not re-importing or re-executing the module, you're just copying the current value into your local scope. This won't reflect updates if reconnectable changes later. Concerned about importing the whole file when you import save logic? If the module has heavy top-level code, for example, a large instantiated class or expensive computation is not guarded by if name is equal to main. Hold up, swell up. Concerned about importing the whole file when you import save logic. If the module has heavy top-level code, a large instantiated class, or expensive computation is not guarded by if name is equal to main, then yes, importing it once will execute all that. But again, subsequent words just your generic lookup modules. Best practice in your case. You only need reconnectable. That value might change over time. Save logic has expensive code. Then yes, you should refactor save logic later to keep it clean and performant. Move heavy stuff into functions or conditionally run. Big instance class reconnectable use false. From big near the file. Skip to lives. So they're saying import save logic, and then a save logic you're going to skip to global live avoid executing code. Patterns that re-import or rerun modules. Don't use from save logic import reconnectable if the value might change. It gets stale. Yeah, prefer import save logic and live access. Okay, so couldn't we just add if name is equal to main at beginning of save logic? You're the code, but there's a small syntax correction. If name is equal to underscore main, that's correct. I commonly use guard. If name parental code inside the block when you're running when the file is imported, is module but allows running when the file is executed directly. Why it doesn't help with your exact case. If the type file will not run top-level code. Like class definitions that are outside of the if block. You'd have to wrap the heavy side or side effect code into that block. No shit, Sherlock. Duh. Duh. This still runs on import. Well, yeah, dude. This defers execution unless run directly reconnectable. This defers execution. But that begins is not available when you import the module elsewhere, which may not be what you want. Big instance is not available when you import the module. Well, you just import the instance, right? If you have expensive logic, you should put it in a function and only call that function when you actually need it. Now elsewhere, okay. Damn, this is it's not a magical shield. It only protects code inside of it. Anything that's outside the block still runs. To keep save logic efficient, keep globals lightweight. Move heavy logic to functions. Use the main guard if you want code to run only when the file is executed directly. Okay. Well, this has turned out to be a little bit more complicated than what it probably needs to be. I mean, it's not a huge deal. It's just not best practice. I don't like to, I like to do best practice. I like to be really smart and proper. I don't like to be half-assed and shit, So, with that said, I think the issue would be if we imported the module, the entire module, into another file, we wouldn't have access to the instance. But like everything in this file, except for that global, is part of the instance. It's all associated with this database class. And the only thing that happens is we instantiate database at the very end of it. So like, I think it's smartest to just do the if name is equal to main thing. So we'll add this Well, it will import all this stuff, and we don't need it to import this stuff. So we would probably put the global at the very top. That would probably be like the smartest thing to do. That to be done at the very tippity top right here under file info. And then basically every single thing other than the creation of this bool would be run in the context of if name is equal to main. So then we would say if name is equal to, and then we say dunder main dunder. Isn't that how it's done? If name is equal to main dunder. If dunder name is equal to quotes dunder main. I don't think it has to be double quotes. I think it's just be single. I'm not sure. So let's continue down all the way to the end. Now let's do tab. There we go. So we have name is equal to main, Python module imports, so on and so forth. Go all the way to the end here. Yeah, so everything now is in the context of this if name is equal to main, except for the global. So now we can just do import. Let me just ask real quick. So we have this, and then we just say all other code, just to make sure I got this right. So we have this reconnect bool equals false, and then we have if name is equal to main, and we'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4. All other code will this work? Almost we know. Won't fully work as you intend. Reconnect bool is name is equal to other code. Reconnect bool will be defined and available when importing save logic from another file, but all the code will not run when save logic imported the module, only when it's executed directly with Python save logic py. So if that all the code includes a class definition, an important instance, initialization logic you need available when importing, it will be available. Must be class def in it. Return global instance of name print snippets. Okay. Well, but what if we only need the instance in other files? Can't we still import the instance even with the name equal to main? And if you define the instance inside, then no, you cannot import it from other files. That block only runs when the script is executed directly. Now when it is imported, so anything created inside the block simply won't exist when you try to import it from another module. Okay. If name is equal to main, then elsewhere say like import my instance. Attribute error module has no attribute my instance. Okay. I see. Use a function or lazy accessor. This is new to me. Like I've never had to do this. Why would I have to do this? Well, it's just because I've never considered having to like I never was concerned about the fact that the rest of the code would run, you know? I just didn't care. But now I'm more proper and I'm like, actually I care about that. I don't want it to do all that stuff if it doesn't need to be there, you know? So even, alright, well, what about if we just import, okay. What about if we just import the global whenever it is needed wouldn't that mean if we imported the global again, it would import the current if changed from original value? You think about it, let's have it. What happens when you from save logic import reconnect bool multiple times? No, unfortunately, it won't get the updated value. Really, from save logic copies the value once, and then so it copies it at import time, and then it doesn't if save logic later changes to true, you won't see it in some module pi unless you do something like manually re-import. Yeah, dude, that's what I was saying. Manually re-import. Even repeated, which is unusual and not recommended. Even repeated imports won't recopy the new value. Python caches all imported modules and sys modules. So this from doesn't reevaluate or refetch the current value, just grabs the original copy again from your local namespace. Now that's trippy right there. To always get the latest value, use a module reference. You save logic reconnect bool. This is a live lookup on the module every time save logic is changed somewhere else for that code. So. Okay, so we're just gonna have to import the file. It's not that big a deal. Fuck it. I don't care. Whatever. I'm not worried about making some complicated ass failsafe. Like, what was it saying to do some lazy man, this sucked up my whole session, huh? Some bullshit. This is what it's recommended. It says big class def init. Heavy or side effect logic here. Global instance big class return global instance. Only run this when testing debugging this file directly. If name is equal to main, always available. Only run this. Yeah, but we don't. But wouldn't that like run all the class code? So the above clean structure you suggested, wouldn't that actually still import all the code inside of the class definition wastefully? Yes, even a clean structure like this still loads the entire class definition. When you import save logic, Python execute the entire file, which includes all top-level statements, all class and function definitions. What does executing a class definition mean? Creates a new class object, parses all methods and attributes, registered to the module's namespace. This doesn't instantiate the class, but it does load and store the class definition and all method bytecode in memory. So yes, it's not as wasteful as instantiating a huge object at import time. But it still loads the whole class, including any large embedded logic, docstrings, annotations, and method definitions. Minimal import cost strategy. If you really want to avoid importing heavy code on this episode, you can delay the import using a function. Deferred import. What? Big instance. Def get instance. Global big instance. If big instance is none, from big module import big class. Big instance equals big class. Return big instance. So yes, to avoid even defining the class during normal imports, we use local imports inside functions or split the heavy logic into another file and only imported when needed. To avoid even defining the class during normal imports. Use local imports. To avoid even defining a class during the normal imports, use local imports inside functions or split the heavy logic into another file. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Alright, guys, it's official. I'm a dumbass. I can just... We're just going to create another file that has the import, the reconnect bool. How about that? How about that? You know? Like, we're not doing all this complicated shit. This is dumb. Here, watch. Take this. Get the fuck out of here. Get it out of here. Now, let's go over here. What a nightmare. We copied it, right? Let's make sure we copied it. Dumbass. Copied? Yes, okay. Now, let's go ahead and... I mean, I don't like to make a file just for this, but people actually do stuff like this. This is a thing. And I really don't want to do that weird... They're just, like, confusing. That will confuse someone. Like, what the fuck is that? Yeah, so what? You have another file. Ooh, big deal. So we're going to create a new file, and it's just going to be called... I mean, honestly, we could just say reconnect bool. We can always change the name later. And we're just going to have reconnect bool pi. And there it is. No, dot pi. Why did it... And then we paste this in. Global type bool purpose to be set true upon reconnect to ensure properties believe in a proper way to avoid extra functionality via the setters to avoid extra data exchange upon setting values. Reconnect bool equals false. And then now, bam, easy. So let's see. What about just creating a new file? Reconnect bool.py for that global. It's actually a really clean and common approach. Creating a 7-bar just for global can simplify things a lot. Minimal import cost, but just can't like getting bool. It's super lightweight, clear responsibility, avoids importing blah 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 live updates. You can still import the module class and access reconnect bool with some changes values. Yeah, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so we just would say import reconnect bool, and then we'll access it through reconnect bool dot reconnect bool, and it's always the current live value. Easy money. All right, so let's go save this file. It should be saved already. And now in game, we're going to import. Actually, we're going to import reconnect bool. There we go. And we'll say for reconnect bool dot reconnect bool true. So reconnect bool for reconnect bool dot reconnect bool. And now we can finally go back to our bookmark here. So we have click card active setter. Set the bool is equal to false. So let me just make sure I'm not referencing save logic file, because that's not where it is. Essentially, if that bool is set to true, which will be set at the beginning of the reconnect session, will enter the first. If and only set the associated internal use adder for that property. If bool is equal to false, we'll run the core function. Reviewed validity of this proposal. Blah blah blah. Yeah, yes. Okay, moving forward. Now we have click card active setter. Okay, so now we need to add the if clause, right? We would say if reconnect bool dot reconnect bool is equal to so the more common thing would be that that is equal to false, right? Because reconnects are going to be not as common. So if reconnect bool is equal to false, meaning it's not a reconnect, then we would run all this code. Is that right? So the setter, click hard, if reconnect bool is equal to false, we do all this stuff, and then we have the else right here at this level, which is basically saying elif reconnect bool dot reconnect bool is equal to true. That means it is a reconnect. Just put aka if is a reconnect, then we would only set this. If we move this down to the top, like currently be blah blah blah. So underscore click card active is equal to val. Yeah, and that's all we want to happen, right? We don't need like anything else to happen. It's just that. Very simple. We say click card active self val reconnect bool is equal to false. Then we would run all this normal stuff because we're not reconnecting. And then in the case that it's else, which means if the reconnect bool is equal to true, aka it is a reconnect, then we would set the internal to whatever the value was, and that's it. Nothing else happens. So now whenever we call the getter for a click card active, it will just return click card active, bam, and that's it. That's all we want, right? We don't want any of this extra stuff to happen because it did already happen. We don't want it to happen again. So I think that I made the right decision here. I think. Let's see. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, we're good. So I'll put my double stamp of approval. I believe it's correct. And this does reference the live value. Anytime it is changed, it will be reflected here. So if like we're reconnecting and at the beginning of client or whatever, we make that reconnect, we would then set that to true. So we need to add that code in. Let's just put that in things to do. I'll put add code which sets reconnect bool dot reconnect bool equal to true upon reconnect. Yes, very straightforward. Add this code in clients.py whenever they are reconnecting. This will ensure that all of the property setters will refer to not send the data and execute extra functionality during setter call. True and data transfer connected. Properties of setters which you told about that doesn't happen. And that would mean change no the same true and data transfer. But this could be changed. We'll change the name of this to be called add code resets reconnect. This one's going to be called modify all setters to check reconnect bool. Reconnect bool. All files which use setters need to import this global var and have logic in place. Have individualized logic in place in each setter, so that to avoid data exchange and extra functionality execution for whenever setters are called during reconnect. Yeah. That's actually really important. All files which use setter need to import the global var and have individuals like please to avoid exchange execution for whenever setters are. Essentially, if bool is equal to false, behave normally, else only set the internal value. That's it. Boom. Okay, now we're done for today. We didn't get a lot done. I mean, well, we figured out, we solved the problem, but it's I got hung up. It had to happen, whatever. It had to happen, right? Like, this had to be done at some point. Might as well get it over with now. So we did something that had to be done. Did it feel good? It didn't feel great because I wanted to just keep going through the list, but you know, you don't always get what you want, right? So this is done. Realize that proper load, we have to add if clause. We got rid of that. Reviewed it. Yep. Okay, so now we have reconnect bool equal to false, and then we have else, and then we do. Why is this? Okay, it's stripping. And then we say import. She did import reconnect bool for reconnect bool.reconnect bool. Gotcha. Use in property setters. True. And what did we need to finish? Well, we still need to finish the list, right? And we're basically still on. Which one were we working on? Let's see. Control Z. Yeah, we don't. Should be able to. Oh, we created it. We removed that though. So we stopped before click card active, but we might need to revisit all the ones with setters, right? So we were on click card active. That's the one we just messed with. Let me just verify that here. Let's see, click card active. Let's undo. Yeah, click card active. That's the one we were messing with. All right, so let's go back over here and to the list. So we're on click card active. That's still where we are when we stopped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 20, 25. Stopped here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bam. Copy that, and then make that red. So it kind of jumps out at us. And what else? We need to say need to revisit previous entries in this list if they are properties with setters to add in the new reconnect bool logic to ensure proper functionality upon load reconnects. This is the best one right here. The seal mix. Yeah, the seal mix is It's lit. Perfect. What are we doing here? Okay, so we stopped at line 51. Finish where we started. Let's go back over here. Does this need to be at the top? Add code resets reconnect bool. Reconnect. Add this code and cloud by whenever you're reconnecting. Modify all setters to check reconnect bool. Yeah. Finish logic for reconnect cloud data. Well, that kind of goes along with going through the list. So like, here's what we'll do. We'll put it in this order. That, then this one. Bam. There we go. Alright. Now we can go to devlog. We go back over here. We stopped at line 51, so we can just copy this real quick, like that. Go back to 2. Bam. Wham. Money. Money, baby. Easy. 6:36. So we did an hour and 12 minutes. We'll just say 1.25. And title is going to be continue filizing, save logic. We'll just call this part 2. That's fine. I mean, we don't have to be super specific here. Continue going through save like during final one namespaces, comments for save logic for each data point. Yep. Let me get rid of that dot right there. And now we come over here and say 6:35. And now we copy this, paste that. It's going to be 6:36 to 6:37. This is actually 1 minute off. It doesn't really fucking matter, but stopped here. We stopped at line number 51 in save logic.py. There we go. Cool. Now let's go back. Where do we go back to? So logic number 2, 520. Save created. Reconnect. If I can spell, reconnect bool dot reconnect bool for proper setter functionality upon reconnect loading from DB. Yep, there we go. Let me just copy this devlog entry. We check to see if we're at the root of the project directory, which we are. So we're going to do git branch to make sure we're on the right branch. We are. And let's do git add dot to stage everything. Git commit -m double quotes, paste in the devlog. There we go. 5 files changed, 47 insertions, 30 deletions. We created the reconnect bool py. Now we're going to do git push to push to the cloud. To our remote GitHub repository. There, we did that. We can exit this out. We'll go over here to programming projects, Canasta, copy this one. Then we're going to change the folder name here to be the 20th. We're going to enter into it, delete the old one, and paste in the new one. And just enter into it. Go to text, devlog, and there you go. That is today's date, so we correctly did all that, and now we have a local backup of the project, and it's good progress today. Was it happy, like easy progress? No, I had to make I had to sidetrack and take care of a new problem that revealed itself, but it had to be done, and it's a good solution. I'm glad that I realized that we were gonna have to have that issue, because that was really important. That would have caused a lot of bugs, and I might not have realized that, so that was really important. A good catch on my part. Yeah, so now we just have to finish going through that list. We still have a ways to go, but it's not so hard. Now that we have that reconnect bool logic figured out, implementing it into the properties is really very easy. It's really easy, actually. The hardest part was figuring out how to implement the solution, mainly that import thing that we had going on. So I just changed it to be a new file instead of being an idiot. So I kind of wasted a little bit of time being dumb, trying not to create a new file. But what's done is done, right? So decent progress, and yeah, I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Tomorrow we should do some more coding, but I don't think I'm gonna code anymore today. Anyway, have a good one.